Hey guys, so I recently brought a Cyber Dragon deck profile featuring DPE as well as triple tactic thrust as a way to combat in the current meta with Cyber Dragons. And so I thought I'd provide some replays as usual against some of the more meta decks and some that are not, and just to show you how to play the deck and just any other kind of discussion. So let's just get right into it, and we are of course starting with Kashtira, which is of course the best deck in the format. And so we are a blind second deck, and so of course we're going to just let our opponent go off. Didn't draw the Nibiru in this instance. He does have a pretty good hand, I guess. He had the Field Spell, the Unicorn, the Rebirth. Is a really good spell card, by the way. Just aside from the actual reborning part, the fact that it can also banish cards in the grave face down is just absolutely insane. Really strong against Branded as well, at least if they don't have Branded lost up. And so he has all the Kashtira monsters, and he's gonna go for that, and essentially your entire zone lock that you saw in the YCS Vegas with Dominic Couch, for example. It's certainly a greedy play. It's not getting punished because I don't have Nibiru, but hopefully he is going for monster zones. If you saw that YCS Vegas clip, Dominic Couch actually went for like the spell trap zones, although admittedly that was against Branded, so maybe that was just a better play. So we do have the emergency, and we can activate threats because the activated effects, and so evenly, really strong. That felt really good. So we're gonna have the Cyber Dragon and Core. We still have the Fusion Destiny as well, and we also have the Kaiju just to get rid of it. We also have our Infinity play. So this was essentially a 6-card combo. Definitely not realistic, but I thought it was just fun to start off the replays and show with this one because it was just a lot of interaction. So that's it for that one, and let's just move on to the next replay against Kashtira as well. Okay, so we have another game against Kashtira, and so again, we're letting them go first. He's going to start with that Unicorn, and this is where the side that I discussed in my deck profile sort of comes up in terms of something like Droll or Lancia, things that are very high impact and can end turns or allow them to have very mediocre boards, and then just try to break apart the board, or hopefully, ideally, just OTK them, but not too realistic. So we do have the Thrust. I believe in this list that I was using for this replay, I was only using 1 DP. That's why I didn't search the Fusion Destiny with Thrust. Otherwise, I totally would have, and that's why I decided to play 2 DPs that you saw in that deck profile. So we did have Ash and Nibiru though, so it was enough to sort of hang on. We do have the Core, and now we're just going to go for that OTK play because we do have the Naxir. Kind of sucks to have to discard the Ash. Can be a little greedy, but this is not playing to Nibiru at all. So just under 5 summons, and Seeger plus Rampage, definitely OTK. And so another final replay against Kashtira. Of course, we're not always going to win, and in fact, probably more likely Kashtira will win. In this list, I was trying Change of Heart as well. I ended up taking it out. I thought it was okay. Being targeting also can't come up, but nonetheless, it's also a generic spell and something you can search off of Thrust. So Kashtira, he's going to just do a standard play. This time he's just going to do that Arise Heart Pass, which is, I think, how Kashtira players are sort of opting towards, just so they don't play into Nibiru, for example, or even like Lava Golem. We do have the Prosperity, which I think is really key. We did have a lot of good options there, but ultimately it's okay. That face down banish is really strong actually, because Machine Dupe, we do need to have that body remain face up. We're going to try to Change of Heart though, just to get it off. And then Core, we are going to search that Overflow just for that sort of prevent that clapback, at least hopefully. And as I mentioned in my deck profile, it's usually not enough nowadays. And we also get Book of Eclipse, which really sucks because you cannot do your Xyz play when they're face down, unfortunately. But you can Fuse Summon, which is why I went to Fortress, but just a 3000 beat stick really doesn't do much. The Overflow pop in the field spell, sure, but he does have the Prosperity, and this deck, even off just like 1 card, can really go off. And I mean, it's tier 1 and the best deck for a reason, and it actually has a lot of interesting plays, especially going second. I find it's certainly not as a brain deck that people try to claim it to be. There's definitely really skillful plays in this deck, and I'm not being sarcastic or anything. Like, it's actually a really interesting deck. He's not playing into Nibiru, very smart, just 4 summons and just attacking with his Kashtira monsters. Because of the Prosperity though, I am not dead, and we do still have that Evenly, which is nice of a clearance. Trying to hang on there. We do have that Rev system, but still, ideally something like Fusion Destiny is nice. I can't remember if they were all banished at this point or not, honestly. Preparation, this is also another card that I'm finding a lot of Kashtira players they're pretty much all on. I think initially maybe some were not playing it, but I think this is kind of the standard now. We're going to normal summon that Soldier just to go into the Infinity and attack. I really thought about going into Zeus here. Perhaps that probably was the better play. I wasn't really sure, honestly. I just have, 0 interruptions otherwise. It's kind of challenging, and that's where I keep saying that we just don't have that much anymore to prevent that pushback from the opponent decks. So we do lose this one, so let's move on to the next one. Alright, so the next set of replays is against Branded. Certainly another very favorite deck. I'm certainly trying to play this deck as well. It's certainly fun to play. He's playing the Patchwork Engine as well as Regain. Regain definitely is not really seeing much play anymore. Ash on Branded Fusion, really strong, of course. And that set, I suspected it'd be something like Tragedy or Edgem Chain, especially because we saw that Pfeiffer package stuff going on. And so we don't have too much of in terms of Cyber Dragon plays, but we do have the Fusion Destiny, which is really strong. And I intentionally pop in knowing that it would likely trigger some kind of effect, and it was Edgem Chain because we do have that thrust. This I believe was post side, that's why I'm putting the D barrier just for that grind game, but thrust really strong, and DP again when you don't have that many Cyber Dragon plays provides that ongoing grind game. And so Branded Fusion, D barrier, which does negate our DP as well, unfortunately, but the good thing is, you know, it's only just on face up, or rather on the field. And so now also the dasher effect that doesn't really get used too much, we're gonna pop 2 and we get to summon that Kaiju now, which is 3300 beat stick. And so now we have the core as well. And so he also had the Serenir, which I guess he kind of forgot to use it on the DPE. You know, it's also EDA Pro. It might have been that, you know, the auto function didn't allow him to give the opportunity to banish, but now he does. And so we do have the Infinity now, and we're gonna just suck up that Edgem Chain. This is kind of a convoluted way to get to the OTK. Perhaps I could have done it differently. I didn't really want to think too much. And you know, I had the Infinity up. He only had 1 card left in hand, and you know, I was OTKing through it, regardless of how I sequence it. And so, you know, the effect doesn't matter, and we do take that one. Now, of course, Branded is honestly a really good deck, right? So it's not that easy. And so when they actually go off, they go really off. And so he's going to start with the Fusion deployment after the Pfeiffer, has that Blazing Cartesia line, the Granganol, dumps the Garura just to draw 1 instead. Poly, really hard making that Lubellion. Kind of interesting to see it this way, and showing that, I guess, you know, even if you had Ash on Branded Fusion, he's actually doing all this without even Branded Fusion, and then now there's the Branded Fusion. So, you know, maybe a little bit overkill in terms of the board. I do have Evenly. The problem is I don't have any other plays, not even the Fusion Destiny play, which really sucks. And he also has Droll on top of all this. And then, well, there's the Ash now, which honestly would not have mattered in that situation. And so we're going to attempt to go into battle phase. He's going to try to do the whole fusion play just so he can plus off something, and then just everything gets wiped. But unfortunately, again, I don't have that much. And that's one of the downsides of Cyber Dragon, is that it can get pretty clunky, which is why I love playing Prosperity, even though you will not be able to most likely OTK that turn. So we have the Luber, Regain, Branded Fusion. We have the Ash. I mean, sure, I guess I kind of survive, but you know, not much to go with. We do still have that Evenly. I was thinking about saving it maybe, but I figured might as well. And I got rewarded because that was all he ended on. We don't have much. We're gonna just Clockwork Knight Infuse and just attack. So here's the interesting. He's trying to Rimbrum Albus. So Chimera Fortress actually cannot be used as fusion material. So what he was trying to do is fuse my guy and go into Lubellion, but that did not work out for him. Although of course he's still in a much more winning position with all this Branded opening. Cartesia, Branded has, you know, a really strong grind game, and just the recurring resources, and it's just being able to draw, being able to search multiple times, being able to add cards back from the graveyard. It's really insane. So definitely the longer you play against them, the worse situation you're going to be in. And then final replay against Branded. This time he does brick quite a bit, but it's not as a given as you would think. So we're going to go with the Emergency Core, and we do have Fusion Destiny, which is really nice. So we're going to go All March first because we're going to get locked into Dark Heroes otherwise. So we're going to try attack. And we get really lucky here with the Snipe because it ends up being Call by the Grave, which would have totally just gotten rid of my DP and my grind game. Our DP does come back. He's going to have Allure, which really gets him off because he already had that Mercurier, gets that. Actually adding the Shrouded Dragon this time. He gets rewarded by getting that Aluber. And so he's also has the Branded opening for the Tragedy, Edgem Chain. Gonna add that Pfeiffer package, or Patchwork rather, get a couple more cards, and then now he can go into Guardian Chimera to try to pop. We do have Almirage to protect at least the DPE, and then he is going to be able to draw, and then the Overflow will also be able to trigger and add us a card. DP, we'll just pop that set, I guess. Super Poly, that's actually really strong as well. He probably should have used that. Anyways, so he does have the opening and summons out Tragedy, which is interesting, but kind of really gives away that he has Super Poly, right? So you see a Tragedy, it will also trigger, and he gets that Dragostophilia, which is very strong. We do have the Emergency. And then again, Thrust can come clutch, and of course you want to make sure the Dark Hole was really dumb. He had Branded Opening, I totally forgot about that. But what I was trying to say was that with Thrust, you want to make sure that they still have that monster, right, so that you can add it to hand instead of having to set it. And then so now we can just do our plays, sending that Naxxter first, because we know we're going to do it again with Rampage, sending 2 more times. And so that's some of the things that you should be aware of. You don't always have to send Hers and Core right off the bat. That Naxxter will be able to provide that revival. And Rampage is soft once per turn, so you can do it again. So now we can negate and just attack for game. Alright, so the last 3 plays against Rika, which I believe is starting to see a bit more play now after Tears have disappeared. And it's a deck that honestly, special summons like crazy. I'm genuinely curious if you would ever Spooky Dog with them, how much life point you would gain at the end of their combo. I think the only other deck that I've personally come across that summons more than this deck is something like Shiranui, I believe, was the one that just spams out special summoning repeatedly. Anyways, with this deck, it's very interesting in terms of their end board. It has a really good Sprite matchup, actually, I think, because, you know, you can like tribute your opponent's monster because of their field spell, and you can like also take another body, as well as negates. If for a deck like Sprite, for example, when you need those level 2 bodies, that's very, very detrimental. And then, you know, their spells and traps just really, really strong. In terms of the interruptions that it can provide, it's kind of unique too, and they have a pretty good grind game as well. And they also have that monster negate through that rank monster that I can't really remember the name. And so we're gonna just go off here. Honestly, I would not be able to even commentate this if I could. It's going rather too fast. Rika Queen's also kind of interesting too. And then this is the one I was talking about in terms of that technically Omni Negate, but in this instance just monster. Unfortunately, this deck is very weak to Evenly Match, and Evenly Match is played a lot right now. We do have the sort of the Cyber Dragon plays to get hit with an Ash. Core is honestly not that good to Ash, I'm gonna be honest. You might as well just wait until, you know, you Ash that Repair Plan or the Machine Dupe. Ash and Core, usually really not a good decision, but we do also have the Vision Destiny instead on top of that, and that would probably increase our chance of winning. Okay guys, so that was a set of Cyber Dragon replays just to show how to play this deck in this current format and just in general. So hopefully that was helpful if you're still a Cyber Dragon enthusiast and wanting to play it in this format. And anyways, if you have any questions, certainly let me know in the comments, and well, take care guys.